So, early reactions to Resident Evil 9 Requiem are finally coming out, and the overall response is surprisingly positive. But there's something interesting happening right now. The people who played it are excited, the atmosphere sounds incredible, the tension seems to be back, and yet at the same time, there are already some concerns starting to surface. If these early impressions are accurate, Resident Evil 9 might end up being one of the most divisive games in the series. Capcom isn't just refining the formula this time. They're taking some real risks with pacing, structure, and even the way the game handles fear. And depending on what kind of Resident Evil fan you are, those changes could either make this one of the best entries in years, or a game that just doesn't feel right. So today, we're going to break down what early preview players are saying, what looks incredible so far, what some of the concerns seem to be, and why Resident Evil 9 Requiem could end up splitting the fanbase right down the middle. And don't worry, I won't be spoiling any of the story.
Come on!
Hey, over here.
The biggest change this time, and the one that's getting the most attention, is the dual protagonist system. Instead of just one consistent gameplay style, the entire experience is built around two very different characters, each representing a completely different version of survival horror. On one side, you have Grace, a character who isn't a trained combat specialist. Her sections are more slow, methodical, and built around vulnerability. Early reviews and previews say her gameplay feels closer to Resident Evil 7, or the more tense moments of the Resident Evil 2 remake. You won't be clearing any rooms as Grace. Sound design also seems to play a huge role this time. Enemies are lethal, and the overall feeling is constant pressure. Many early impressions have said her sections are where the game feels the most like pure survival horror. And for fans who've been asking for the series to lean back into tension and fear, this sounds like exactly what they've been waiting for. But then there's Leon, and this is where things start to get interesting. Leon's gameplay shifts the entire tone. He's faster, more capable in combat, his sections are much more proactive. You're not hiding from threats, no. You are the danger. Movement is more fluid, combat arenas are larger, and weapon upgrades and loadout choices play a bigger role. I mean, Capcom isn't just giving you two perspectives, they're giving you two completely different interpretations of fear. Grace is more about the vulnerability and isolation, while Leon is about escalation and gunplay. On paper, this all sounds great, but it also raises one of the biggest questions people have already. Will constantly switching between these two styles feel like something cool and interesting, or will it just bog down the gameplay? Because I just know players are going to start getting invested in one style, and then they're going to have to go into the other, and it's just going to make the experience really uneven. And that's one of the first areas where this game could really end up dividing players. Another big talking point from early previews is the enemy behavior. Instead of overwhelming players with large numbers, Resident Evil 9 appears to be focusing on a little bit more of sustained tension. So in videos, you can see enemies patrolling some interconnected areas. Some of them react to different noises and try to investigate where they're coming from. And in some cases, you can see them even track the player over time. This really reminds me of the Mr. X dynamic from Resident Evil 2, where the tension comes from knowing something or someone is out there, even when you can't quite see him. And this approach seems to be working. So far, it seems like there are lots of long stretches of exploration, some limited safe spaces, and encounters that feel really dangerous. But again, there's a potential problem here. Some previewers have mentioned that while the AI can be pretty impressive, there were moments where the enemy behavior became predictable once they learned their patterns. Others have mentioned some inconsistencies, like enemies starting to lose track of the player too easily, or just getting stuck in walls or in some simple locations. Now, of course, these are review builds, so they could be updated on launch, so take it with a grain of salt. But when a game relies this heavily on tension and enemy behavior, even these small inconsistencies can have a big impact on how scary it actually feels. Something that has been mostly very positive is exploration. The game is built around a semi-interconnected environment rather than a fully open world. Think more along the lines of classic Resident Evil layouts where locations connect back into each other and progress involves unlocking shortcuts, revisiting areas, and getting 7 different types of keys. All of this gradually opening up the map for you. Puzzles are also getting more attention this time, with some early players mentioning multi-room puzzle chains, optional challenges that reward with some powerful equipment, and environmental storytelling that encourages slower, more deliberate exploration. I'm guessing that's more around Grace's part of the game. Inventory management is also tighter. Crafting materials, healing items, and key objects all compete for limited space, and safe rooms are less frequent than in recent entries. For some purists, that added pressure will make the experience even more intense. For others, well, this could be a little bit of an issue and could even feel a bit more frustrating, especially those who prefer the faster pace of recent titles. And once again, that comes back to the same theme we're seeing across early reactions. This game is leaning hard into slower, more deliberate survival horror. And I'm not sure everybody is gonna want that after the Resident Evil 4 remake. Visually though, there's almost nothing but praise. The RE engine continues to deliver. One early reviewer mentioned how dark corridors could feel claustrophobic, with flashlight mechanics being more dynamic and sound design getting a lot of attention for how much it contributes to the atmosphere. And one issue that hopefully won't be a problem is performance. Capcom has specifically addressed concerns about optimization and has stated that they don't expect the kind of PC performance issues that have affected other games like Monster Hunter Wilds. Hopefully performance can remain stable without any stutters. Lots of early reviewers have mentioned that the game appears to scale pretty well with different hardware. Of course, we won't know for sure until launch, but at least right now there aren't any major red flags on the technical side of things. Where lots of people do seem to have mixed reactions is with the story, although it's still generally positive. The narrative seems to lean more into psychological horror this time. I know lots of players really like this direction and feel like the series is evolving into something a bit more grounded, but hey, I know lots of others, especially when it comes to the new protagonist, aren't completely sold on it yet. Leon being there obviously helps with familiarity, but introducing a character into such a major entry always carries a level of risk. I'm a bit worried that players might not connect with her. The slower sections could feel like an obstacle rather than a highlight of the game. And again, this comes back to the central question. Capcom is clearly trying to evolve the formula, but every time the series changes direction, there's always a part of the fan base that prefers the older style. There are also a few specific concerns that seem to keep popping up. Some players worry about the overall pacing. Enemy durability is another issue, with some mid-tier enemies feeling slightly too spongy. And with the entire experience built around tension and careful resource management, balance is going to be extremely important. Right now though, none of these concerns sound like a major problem. In my mind, the bigger question isn't whether the game will be good, it's whether players will agree on what they want Resident Evil to be. And that's really what makes Resident Evil 9 Requiem so interesting. For longtime fans who've been asking for the series to feel scary again, this could end up being exactly what they wanted. But for players who prefer the faster, more action-driven style the series has leaned into at times, this could feel like a step backward. Now, with a series that's changed as much as Resident Evil has over the years, any strong direction is going to split opinions. Right now though, things are still looking pretty promising. I think the atmosphere sounds amazing, and if Capcom can polish some of the rough edges before launch, this could be one of the strongest entries the series has seen in a really long time. But what do you think? Are you excited for a slower, more survival-focused Resident Evil? Or would you rather see the series lean more into action? And if you're interested in more coverage on Resident Evil 9 and other upcoming games, make sure to stick around. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And once again, have a great one.